We begin the Gemara today, 3 lines from the bottom of Daf Chav Beis Amud Beis. Tana Rabbanon Chacham Shemeis, a Chacham that passes away. So as we learned yesterday, Rashi says a Chacham is a person that has a certain position in a city to answer people's shailas. What's called today a Meira Hira. So what's the halacha? Beis Medrash Batel. In his Beis Medrash, where people came to learn Torah from him, the seder of learning is batel, and they spend the time instead to make a speidim for his honor and so on. But only his Beis Medrash. Av Bezdin Shemeis, the Av Bezdin, the leader of the Bezdin in the city that passed away, called Batei Medrash Shabira B'Teilin. All of the Batei Medrashim of the entire city are all batel from their learning in order to give him his proper honor and his speidim. V'nechnasim lebeis hakneses. But if it's a Av Bezdin that passed away, they still enter into the Beis HaKnesses to come to daven. Umishanen, you want a Gemara? There can be one on the shelf over there if you find a Gemara. Umishanen es mekaiman, and they when they come to shul, so you change your place in the shul where you were davening before. Hayeshvin b'tzafin, those that were sitting in a tzafin place in the Beis Medrash in the north, yeshvin b'darim, they sit on the darim side. Hayeshvim b'darim, yeshvim b'tzafim. Those that were sitting on the south side sit on the north side. So that's also a sign of avelus, changing your place. It's also brought by Oval. Nasi shemeis, but then if it's not only a Av Bezdin, but it's a Nasi, it's the leader of all of Klal Yisrael that passed away. So then Batei Midrashis kulam b'teilin, all the Batei Midrashis stopped their learning in order to give him his honor. And ubnei hakneses nichnasin lebeis hakneses. The people from the shul come, they only come into the shul not for davening. As it says there, they only come into the shul on Shabbos, the Koyer and Shiva, and they read Kriyas HaTorah on Shabbos, v'yotzen, and they leave. So they stopped the learning in the Beis Medrash. They also stopped the minyanim of davening in the Beis HaKnesses, and they only come into the shul on Shabbos to read from the Sefer Torah the 7 aliyahs on Shabbos. That's one shot in the Gemara. There are other Rishonim that say that when the Gemara says V'kair and Shiva, it's giving you the example of the number of aliyahs that there are on Shabbos, which is 7 aliyahs, but it also means that on every day, Monday and Thursday as well, they come into shul not for the minyan. There's a minyan like the way it is in a Beis HaOval, but for the Kriyas HaTorah you come for the aliyahs, even if it's 3 aliyahs every day. And v'yotzen, and then they immediately leave. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha says about this, Loi sheyelchu v'yitaylu b'shuk. This doesn't mean that because the Beis Medrash is not open for learning, or the Beis HaKnesses is not open for the minyanim for davening. That doesn't mean that the point is that you should go out and just take a walk in the marketplace. Everybody sits quietly the way an oval sits during this time when a nasi passes away. So Gemara weiter. This is part of the. For 7 days. I think it looks like it. Yes. And also the Braisa continues, they don't say Shmua v'Agada, they don't teach the Sugya that they were learning, or the Agada, the Agadata they were learning, Beveis Oval. In the house, they all remain in their house, in the house of the Oval, they don't say a Shmua v'Agada. So on this as well, there's 2 pshatim in Rishonim. Some say this refers even to Shabbos. Chiddush of this Braisa is that even on Shabbos there is an Avelus. And others say, no, this does not refer to Shabbos. This is another halacha. B'chlal, in the house of an oval during the week, that there's no divrei Torah that they learn. We'll see soon in the Hamshach of the Gemara, there'll be a machlokes regarding Shabbos, if there's avelus betzin on Shabbos. Sagt the Gemara weiter, Amru alav Rab Chananya ben Gamliel. It was said about Rab Chananya ben Gamliel, Shaya oimer shmua v'agada beveis oval. He did teach halachis and even agadate in the house of an oval. So again, as I mentioned, either this means on Shabbos, or this means even every day of the week. Tana Rabbanan, in a Braisa we learned, Oval, so every Oval, Shabbos Rishayna, the first week of his Avelus, which was what we call Shiva, Einu Yaitze mi Pesach Beisa, he doesn't leave his house. Shniya, the second week, Yaitze, he leaves his house, Ve'einu Yeshiv bim Kaima, he comes in the shul, he doesn't sit on his regular place in the shul, he changes his place. Shlishis, it comes the third week, Yeshiv bim Kaimai, he can sit in his regular place in the shul, Ve'einu medaber, but he doesn't speak to people the way he usually does, he's quiet, he's still in a certain level of avelus. Revi'is, it comes the fourth week, then Areyu k'chol adam, then he behaves like everybody else. Rabbi Yudah says, no, everything is 1 week delayed, 1 week more than what the Tanna Kama said. Because needless to say, Shabbos Rishona, lo yetze mi Pesach Beisa, that the first week of the Shiva, the Oval doesn't leave the house. That's the main week of Shiva, when everyone is coming to his house to come and console him. So then obviously he doesn't leave the house. Ella, Shniya eni yetze mi Pesach Beisa. According to Rabbi Yehuda, even the second week he still doesn't leave his house. Shlishis, now only the third week he leaves his house, Yaitzi goes out, Ve'eni Yeshiv B'Mkaima, he doesn't sit in his regular place in the Beis Medrash. And the Bach adds here that Ve'eni Medaber, he doesn't talk to people normally, socialize on that week as well. Revius, on the fourth week, Yeshiv B'Mkaima, he can sit on his regular place in the Beis Medrash, but Ve'eni Medaber, he doesn't socialize with people. Chamishis, only the fourth week, or the fifth week that is, which basically comes out like after the Shloshim, Hareu k'chol adam. Then he behaves again like all people. Tan Rabbanan, and another brayso we learned, Kol Shloshim Yom L'Nisuin. For the first 30 days, a person that's an oval is not allowed to get married. Meisa Ishtoi, if this person is an oval, his wife passed away, so then also Lisa Isha Cheres, he's not allowed to get remarried, Achi Yavru Olav Shloshim Regalim, until he waits 3 Yom Tovim to pass. Now, it's not it's not a healthy thing for a person immediately after his wife passes away to get remarried. There is an exception for this. We had before a Gemara that he got remarried right away. Here the Gemara brings another opinion. Rabbi Yehuda says, Regel Rishon V'Sheni Yasser, for the first and second Yontiv he's not allowed yet to get remarried. Shlishi Mutter. But coming to a third Yontiv, even before the third Yontiv, he is allowed to get remarried. Now, if he didn't have any children from his first wife that passes away, mutter lisa la'alter, he's allowed to immediately get remarried, because he's being mevatel a mitzvah of piriv yeribya, of having children. So to be mekayim this mitzvah minatayra of piriv yeribya, which is called in many places a mitzvah rabbah, it's one of the greatest mitzvahs, a great mitzvah, so he's allowed to get remarried right away. Another exception is banim ketanim. If the wife that passed away left him with very young children that have to be taken care of. So then, mutter lisa la'alter, he's allowed to get remarried immediately, mipnei parnasasam, for the purpose of his wife to come and take care to feed his children. Ma'aseh, there was once a story that happened, Shemeisa ishtoi shel Yosef HaKayin. The wife of Yosef HaKayin passed away. Already in the Beis HaKvaris, mamish by the time of the burial, he said to her sister, that is, L'chi u'parnasi es b'nei achaysech, that you should go and you should provide, you should take care of the children of your sister. Meaning he hinted to her that I'm going to get married to you. But Va'afal Pikein, yet, even though they already made up immediately that he's going to get remarried to her, he didn't yet have relations with her for another long time. How long is that long time? That this is after 30 days. So Taisus points out that this story here that the Braisa brings is even a bigger chiddush, mamish within the Shiva. I mean, right away, right in the Beis HaKvaris, he right away makes up that he's getting married with her. Taisus brings over here, based on a Gemara in Psachim, or in Zvachim actually, that says that his wife passed away Erev Pesach. So therefore, the halacha is, we learned already before, that if you have Shiva that begins on Erev Yontif, the Yontif stops the Shiva. And it even stops the Shiva already on Erev Yontif. Erev Yontif, you're allowed to make all the preparations for Yontif, so he wasn't in Shiva anymore. So if he wasn't in Shiva anymore, so therefore he's allowed to get married with her. Otherwise, when it said before in the Braisa that a person that has no children or has children to take care of, he can get remarried right away, it means after Shiva, not within Shiva. That's what Taisus says. But over here, it was Erev Yontif.
Married, just told her.
But it's mashma, but the lashon of the Braisa though, it's mashma loibaleo, that the relations with her was only later, but he actually did marry her right away. That's what it's mashma. He brought her into his house, and she was his wife, and they took care of the children right away. Tan Rabbanan, and another Braisa we learned about the shloshim. Kol shloshim yaim, for the 30 days of an oval, legiyotz. You're not allowed to wear any pressed garments, new pressed garments, or maybe not even new, as it says there, echad kelim chadoshim, whether it's new, fresh clothing, vechad kelim yishanim, or even old garments that were washed and pressed, you're not allowed to wear yetzim mitecha machbesh, which comes out from a press, from a cleaners, a dry cleaners, you're not allowed to wear within 30 days new pressed garments. And Taisus actually here, there's a big long Taisus here about this. It's mashma from Taisus that this pressing over here of these garments that it speaks about is not like what we call today ironed or pressed garments. It's talking about that it was a certain form of laundering There's the laundering which is usually called kibbutz, when you wash, and then there's a different kind of laundering which is called gihutz, which I think is it whitens it. It's a different level of washing that it makes it even more sparkling, more white. So that's what gihutz means. The Tosfos has a whole discussion whether what it says here in the Braisa regarding gihutz, does it apply also to kibbutz, that are oval and in the first 30 days shouldn't wear any laundered clothing whatsoever. So in the Tanakama of this Braisa said it doesn't matter if it's buying new garments or it's old ones and he pressed it, it's the same halacha. You're not allowed in the first 30 days. Rabbi says Lo yasur ela kelim chadashim bilvad. The Isser is only to buy new clothing. But if it's older clothing that were washed or pressed, that's allowed. Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon says, "Lo asru ela kelim chadashim levanim bilvad." Even new garments, the only issue was if it's new white garments. Those are something that are unique and special. That's what's not allowed. But even new garments, if it's colored, that's allowed. So the Gemara brings the hanhoge, the behavior of different Tamiroim regarding this machlokes. Abaye went out in the time of his shloshim, begarda the sarvela. So this is some kind of a coat which was white. So it wasn't a new coat, it was some kind of a white coat that was pressed, but it was old. So therefore he did like what Rabbi said. As long as it's not brand new, you're allowed to wear it. Kerebi, the Gemara says like Rabbi. Rave in the time of Shloshim, so he went out, b'chimutzte rumisa, with some kind of a shirt, Rashi says, that came from Rome, sumakta, which was red, so it's not white, but anechadeti, it was new. So he was following the opinion of Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon. Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon said that you can wear a brand new garment as long as it's not white. So this was a red garment, came from Rome, so it was made in Italy. So therefore it was allowed. Sagt the Gemara weiter, going back to what it said in our Mishnah. So the lashon of the Mishnah was regarding Shabbos in the middle of Shiva. Mipnei she'omru Shabbos oile. The day of Shabbos is counted as one of the days of the Shiva, ve'enim afsekes. And Shabbos does not interrupt, it does not stop the Shiva. The Shiva continues after Shabbos. So there's a machlokes about Shabbos itself regarding Shiva. Bnei Yehuda or Bnei Galila. There was a machlokes between the people of Yehuda and the people of Galil regarding this. Hani Yamri, there were those that said, Yesh Avelis b'Shabbos. There is Avelis on Shabbos. Now, this doesn't mean Avelis the way it is during the week. If you look here in the top Tosfos, he says, B'dvarim shebetzina, that it's speaking about things in the privately, there are certain things of Avelis on Shabbos. V'hani Yamri, there was another opinion that said, Ein Avelis b'Shiva, b'Shabbos that is. There is no Avelis on Shabbos at all, for sure not the things that are publicly, even the things that are privately, there's no Avelis on Shabbos. So the Gemara says, Man dama yesh avelus b'Shabbos, the one that says that there is avelus on Shabbos. So what's his source in the lashon of the Mishnah? Diktani oila. It says in the Mishnah that the day of Shabbos is counted. The word oila simply means it's counted as one of the days of the Shiva. So counted means that you do behave in avelus to some extent. Man dama ein avelus b'Shabbos, the one that says that there is no avelus on Shabbos. So he says, Diktani einam afsekes. What does it say in the lashon of the Mishnah? That Shabbos will not cut your Shiva, it does not end the Shiva. Now, if you're going to say that on Shabbos, you continue behaving to some extent with Avelos, hashta Avelos naga. So if the behavior of Avelos still continues on Shabbos, afsukim yibaya, does the Mishnah have to say that the Shabbos does not cut off the Avelos? Why should it cut it off? There's still a continuation of the actual behavior of Avelos on Shabbos. So we see from this that there's no behavior of Avelos on Shabbos, but nevertheless it's saying that the day of Shabbos does not end the Avelis, one continues the Avelis after Shabbos. So the Gemara now asks a question on this opinion. So yeah, he has a very good diuk from the fact that it says that it's not mafsik, but it also says oila. Oila sounds like that it's counted as part of the Avelis, that you behave in Avelis on Shabbos. So he answers, that word is not precise here. Aidi, the Kabbalah, Misni Seifa, because later in the Mishnah it uses this term. It says, Einam Oilim, regarding Yantif. In the next part of the Mishnah it says regarding Yantif, that there on Yantif there's no Avelus. So Tanireisha Oila. So in the Reisha he uses the same terminology that it's Oila, that Shabbos is counted for Avelus. But really it does not mean that on Shabbos you actually behave with any Avelus whatsoever. Gemara asks the question on the other opinion. According to the opinion that says that there is Avelis on Shabbos, the Mishnah uses the term regarding Shabbos that it doesn't end the Avelis. But if there's actual hanhaga of Avelis on Shabbos, why would I have to say that? So again, he says the same thing. Since in the Sefer regarding Yontif it says mafsikin, that the Yontif ends the Avelus, so therefore it uses the term regarding Shabbos that it does not end it. Even though the truth is that regarding Shabbos it's much more than that. On Shabbos there's actually a behavior of Avelus. So Tana Reisha and Mafsekis uses the Reisha the same terminology. Shall we say this argument between the Bnei Yehuda and the Bnei Galil is a machlekes Tanaim? So it says in the Braisa as follows. A person has a relative that passed away that's there lying right in front of him. So what does he do? If he wants to eat, he should go and eat in a different house. If he doesn't have a different place where to go to eat, to have another house, he goes to the house of his friend to eat. He doesn't have a house of his friend to go to eat. He should put up a partition between him and the person that passed away, 10 tfachim, and then he can eat. He doesn't have anything with what to make any partition between him and the person that passed away. So he has to turn away his face, and he eats. You shouldn't eat reclining, you shouldn't eat comfortably and reclining. He could eat, but shouldn't eat meat, shouldn't drink wine. This is an einan. So these are the halachas that applies. And also, he does not bench. So this means he doesn't bench. Rashi here says to be mitzi others, meaning when he's benching to be mitzi other people. Ve'ein mezamen, he doesn't have to bench. Mezamen means benching. Ve'ein mevarchen olav, people don't bench and are mitzi him. Ve'ein mezamnen olav, he's not included in the zimun. When you have a zimun of 3 people, he's not included. Upata mekriyashma, he's also pater to say kriyashma, menat tefillah, from davening, menat tefillin, from putting on tefillin, or mikol mitzvah samuris b'teira, or from any mitzvahs in the teira. This is the halacha of an einon before the person that passed away, a relative, was buried, so he has a halacha of an einon and he's pater from all mitzvahs. Or b'Shabbos, if this is on Shabbos, meise v'eichel, so he's allowed to even recline and eat comfortably. V'eichel basar, he could eat meat, v'shaisa yain, and drinks wine. Mevarech, mezamen, he makes a bracha, he benches, mevarchen, mezamen, olav. The people bench for him, and they include him in the zimun of a benching. V'chayev, b'kriyashma, b'tfilah, b'tfilin, or b'chol mitzvah amuris b'tayra. And he's chayev in all of these mitzvahs that the Torah says, because on Shabbos the halach of an einon does not apply. Yes, so some say you take out the girsa of tefillin because we're talking about Shabbos here, right? So the pashtus it should be taken out. Okay, so the point is, the reason why an einon is pater from all mitzvahs is not really connected to the concept of mourning. It's because since the einon has the obligation to bury that person, that's a relative, so therefore not to get him sidetracked from his obligation that he has right now, he's pater from all mitzvahs. But on Shabbos, since he can't bury the person that passed away anyways, so therefore he's chayiv to do all the mitzvahs. Rabbi Gamliel says, since you're saying that he's chayiv in all these mitzvahs that you mentioned, he's chayiv bekulan. So he's actually chayiv in all other mitzvahs as well. He's chayiv in every mitzvah. Now, what is it that the Tanakama did not mention that Rabbi Gamliel is coming to add? Rabbi Yechanan said about this, Tashmish Hamita. It's referring to the mitzvah of Tashmish Hamita, of marital relations, which the Tanakama did not mention. So what do we see of it? This is the difference between the Tanakama and Rabbi Gamliel. So on a Shabbos, where a person is an einon, where the relative that passed away wasn't buried yet, so the Tanakama will say that all mitzvahs he's allowed to fulfill, or he should fulfill, but Tashmish Hamita, not. Rabbi Gamliel comes along and says, no, even the mitzvah of Tashmish Hamita as well. So the Gemara explains, don't you think that they're arguing in the same argument that was mentioned before? Mar Sovar Yeshavelis B'Shabbos. The Tanakama holds that for things that are in private, so there still is Avelis on Shabbos, and that's why Tashmish Hamita is Aser, that is. Mar Sovar Ein Avelis B'Shabbos. Rabbi Gamliel says that just like all other mitzvahs are allowed on Shabbos, there is no Avelis on Shabbos whatsoever, and therefore Tashmish Hamita is allowed. So we see the same argument here. So the Gemara answers, no, not necessarily. Mimai, how do you know to compare that it's the same argument? Dilme, perhaps I can tell you, Ad kan lekama Tanakama Hasam. In this Braisa, the reason why the Tanakama says that when there's Avelis privately, Tashmish Hamita, that's going to be Aser, Ela Mishum de Meise Mutlafanav, because there's a much greater level of mourning that applies to him when the relative that passed away is still here and was not buried yet. So therefore, there's Avelus Betzina on Shabbos. Aval Hacha, but by any oval, where the person was already buried. So the Emes and Mutalafanov, the mace is not in front of you anymore, light. So maybe there is no Avelus on Shabbos whatsoever. The Tanakama would agree. Or you could say, actually, there's in the reverse, the Gemara now says, Va'at kan lekom Rabbi Gamliel hasam. The only reason Rabbi Gamliel says there that Tashmish Hamita is allowed on Shabbos, Ta'akati lechal Avelus leha. Because the halachas of Avelus really did not take effect. As we'll see later in the Gemara, Avelus only begins after the Kvura. Before that, he's still called an Einan. So therefore, the Avelus didn't take effect. So therefore, he says, Tashmish Hamita is allowed. Aval Hacha, but when you speak about an oval where the Avelus began, the Chal Avelus Aleh, Hachanami. So maybe over here, Rabbi Gamliel would agree that even on Shabbos, regarding Avelus B'tzina still does apply. So therefore, there's no raya that their argument is related to the argument before between Bnei Yehuda and Bnei Galu. Or Messiah and B'teif.